Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Box. I'm Brett Clark, and we are here with a very special guest and a friend of mine. I'm so excited, Jon, for being here. He was in the mortgage industry for 19 years, flipped over to the realtor industry in 2016, and then has just been outstanding in that situation, has done stuff with legislative that has helped all of us be able to continue to work through COVID and those type of situations, and continues to impress. So I like to consider him a big friend in everything that I do, and an inspiration to continue to move forward. And I want to share some of his story with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Brett. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate the invitation. This is actually my first time ever doing a podcast, so I'm very excited and looking forward to it. So thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and for the first time I heard your story that you went from lending and you actually survived 2010. Like, you survived the 2008 to 2010. You made it all the way through. You didn't get into real estate until 2016. Can you walk us through that journey of kind of like your thought process, what your take of what happened, and then how you got to where you are today?
So interesting story. Started in 96 as a loan officer working for a company called National City Mortgage. We basically didn't have a bank branch here in North Carolina, so we were just our own mortgage originator, self-sourced for business, and was able to, through that job, was able to build a pretty successful operation, and just kind of worked my way up into leadership roles. And at the time that I left, I was a regional manager. And so, but to your point, the biggest challenge I think that anybody in the mortgage business, or even in real estate for that fact, went through was that mortgage meltdown. Started in 2007, 2008, and it really hit National City very hard. And so we did a lot of construction perm financing, and we had a lot of exposure down in Florida as well as California. And if you were participating in real estate at that time, those were two of the biggest hit markets in terms of just losses.
Yeah. For builders got hit hard because they were the one that were over leveraged, right?
Right, and so we were funding a lot of those builders. So it really, our P&L took a big hit. And so we were fortunate, though, instead of going under, we were acquired by PNC.
Okay.
And so that transition into the PNC model, even though we were, fighting the complexities of the market at that time, the acquisition of PNC and the decisions that they were making with the mortgage division was just added an additional layer of stress. And it was, to say it was a difficult time would really not do it justice. It was very, very troublesome. And just to hang on, there was still production that was going on, but being that you weren't able to provide any service level to either your clients, your buyers, or your realtor partners, it was very traumatic for a lot of people and very stressful. And I ended up in the doctor's office many, many times with heart problems, and just the stress and anxiety of that. Just felt that trying to get through that, and I needed to make a change. My energy level to participate as a lender just really kind of took a hit during that time. Mm-hmm. And so I love real estate, and one of the things being a regional manager that really became evident to me is I spent too much time behind a computer screen and not enough time out with the people that either I was managing or our clients. And so I said, let me go and get my real estate license, because that's really what inspires me, or where I get my energy from, is shaking hands and going out open houses, or going to different properties and showing properties out. So decided to make that change in 2016, and it has been honestly has been a breath of fresh air for me. I've just rejuvenated after that difficult time in the mortgage industry, and been actually very successful with it. Very happy with my career. I work a lot of hours, but it's hours that I enjoy.
Right.
So I've got a 19-year-old daughter who's a freshman at UNCW, so I still get to spend enough time with her leading up to college. But I love what I do, and working with home buyers and sellers is just, it's an awesome experience for those in real estate. It's hard to really encapsulate that, but you're fighting so many different emotions and fires and different situations to help people become a homeowner, mm-hmm. or to help sell their house and still protect their investment. So it's a lot of fun. It's challenging, but very rewarding.
Every day is totally different in our industry.
100%.
A lot of people don't realize. They're like, oh yeah, you show houses and you got to do this. Yes, the showing of the houses or the pulling the application for us.
Yeah.
Yes, that might be the routine, but all of the fires and everything that comes on is really what makes the job, I'm going to say, interesting.
Yeah.
And like keeps us engaged.
Sure.
In that. One thing that I like that you said is that you felt like you wanted to get back in front of everybody and be with everybody again. And that's one of the things that I've noticed, that our industry has become a little commoditized right now, where a lot commoditized right now, where it's you can open a door or you can go do this, or for loan officers, it's cold call people and like kind of stay in the office, run the same conventional loans over and over and over again, and you're a commodity. And the tech industry has come in and been like, well, if you're a commodity, we can do it better and faster.
100% agree with that. Yeah.
However, that's not what our clients need. Would you say that's fair?
It's very fair, and I think when you look at to that extent, there are people that feel that what we do is a commodity. There are buyers and sellers that don't understand the complexities of what we do every day for a transaction, and a lot of that falls on our shoulders. I think we've done, especially COVID exposed this, but we've done a poor job, and I'm talking about we as realtors, not as a lender in this case. But we've done a poor job of communicating the value that we bring to our clients and what we do for them to earn our commission. One of the things that has really come out that is gaining some momentum with the NAR lawsuit that came out last year was, why don't we charge clients per hour, like an hourly rate, such as an attorney? And I've done some analysis on that. In fact, I've got a client I'm working with right now where we're talking about how much time is spent and so forth. And it's hard for them to even comprehend how much time and focus and energy that we spend on one transaction. And to me, that is just one of the most profound things, is that, listen, you can pay me a percentage of this transaction, or if I charge you by the hour, it's going to be a huge risk to you, and there's a risk exposure of this. Imagine you're a buyer, and you go out, and we go see one house, and you buy that one house. Yes, my time is very short compared to a buyer who's going to go see 20 homes, or 30 homes, or even 40 or 50 homes. So in the end, what we've got to do as agents is really communicate and show our value so our clients really understand what all we're doing for them and how important our role is, so that we don't become a commodity.
Right.
Because we don't just open doors. Like, if that's all you think I do, yeah, we need to sit down and have a very long, detailed conversation. Because let me show you what I'm going to do to help protect your investment and help you become wealthier through your home equity, right?
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that I'm going to say are maybe undereducated or newer to the industry, that is what they do. Like, their value is opening doors. And unfortunately, I'm going to say the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, right.
The 20% of the work that the 80% of them do does make us look like a commodity, but the professionalism that sometimes we show on our side is we don't talk about the negative days, the bad days, the things that went wrong.
Yeah.
We're so afraid of showing the things that we screwed up or could have been screwed up or that we worked through, which shows our value.
Sure.
Because we don't want someone to think that we're a screw up. And so we almost hide the value in the process to make ourselves look better in the social media world that we have.
Sure.
But it's almost doing ourselves and the industry a disservice.
So much to unwrap with that. So much
Right?
to unwrap with that. To your point, new agents or agents that are considering getting their real estate license, first and foremost, this job is not easy.
Right.
It's not for weak people, and make sure you have some money saved up, right? It is a very long learning curve to really understand, like what you're saying, the value that you're bringing to a client. Because if you're not able to articulate that with confidence, clients, buyers, and sellers are going to be like, you know what, why would I use this person, right? They're just out for a check.
Yeah, and they smell blood, right?
Yeah,
they smell blood. Like, they don't see the confidence. They're like, all right, you're not confident. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and so selling real estate does require a lot of experience to really get good at it and be able to communicate that to your customers. And so for newer agents, I don't want you to get discouraged, right? That's not the whole point of this, because we need fresh agents to get into this industry who are going to be the legacy for us going forward. But we want to make sure that they're trained properly. And I think that is one of the challenges where we've done, again, talking about our value, we've done a poor job on social media of talking about what an agent does every day. Like, I can't tell you how many social media posts I've seen where an agent's at Starbucks getting their 4,000 calorie frappuccino, whatever that is, and saying, living my best life. Look, I just had a show to house, and like feeling like they made a bunch of money, and that's not reality. And so social media has done a very poor job. Plus, during COVID, a lot of people were working from home or were getting paid to stay home because companies were closing or not, were in office. And so a lot of people got their real estate license and thinking this was going to be an easy job. And again, the reality sits in like, oh my gosh, I've got all these expenses. I've got to do this, and how much time I'm spending for every one of these leads that I'm trying to turn into a transaction. So it's a challenging career, but also one that's rewarding. And for new agents, they've just got to really get a good mentor. They've got to get a good coach to really understand what it's going to take for them to build their business and be successful. Because you're self-employed, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I have noticed that I like about what I've seen in the realtor world, and why I spend a lot of time in the realtor world with you guys, is that you have your associations. And yes, there is a portion of you join a brokerage, you're required to be a part of an association.
Sure.
But for the people that come and show up, there's a camaraderie where you are colleagues / competitors / mentors from different firms making each other better. And that's one thing that I really enjoy being a part of and seeing you guys grow and trying to grow with you guys. And almost a shout out to the realtors that might be watching this of, hey, your association might be a great place to find that mentor, somebody that has that experience. You've been on the board here with Raleigh Regional. So can you talk about that mentorship or what you've seen from competitors / colleagues?
Yeah, so I really can't talk too much about being on the board because I can't speak on behalf of the association. But what I will say is that here recently, especially with the NAR lawsuit and things that has happened on the national level, some bad publicity, NAR has really gotten a black eye, and rightfully so. Let's just be honest. Let's call it what it is. However, it doesn't undermine the value that this trade association brings to each and every one of our members. Yes, there is a fee that you're going to pay every year to be a part of this. The problem is most realtors who are paying a fee to this don't understand how much value is between these walls, right? And how much experience is in this building every single day that you can just grab somebody and say, hey, help me understand this. How do you operate your business this way? What are some tools that you use to help get your business, right? There's so many resources just at the people level of the association that newer agents or even experienced agents who might be struggling a little bit, get involved, start rubbing elbows and networking with the other members here. Because one of the things that has been more enlightening to me as being a member of Raleigh Regional is how exceptional people are more than willing to spend their time to help me become a better realtor, right? And help me understand how important what we do for our clients is every day. Like, I can tell right now, there's roughly, and I know we don't know all the numbers, but around 15,000 licensed agents in this area, right? This MSA. Around 10,000 are realtors. Somewhere in that ballpark, 10,500. So they pay members to belong to the association. Well, one of the things that is so important is we have about 300 of those 10,000 members that are engaged at the local level. What's that, 3%?
Right.
So think about that. 3% of the realtors are really engaged in participating in events and seminars and training and opportunities here at the association. And as a consumer, as a buyer or seller, it would be important, again, I'm coming at it from a realtor perspective, but if I'm a buyer, I want to know, tell me why I should work with you. We say, well, I've been a realtor for 3 years. I'm going to go show you houses. What about, how are you protecting my rights as a property owner? When I go to buy this house, what's going to happen with my survey? What's going to happen with the boundaries? What about this neighborhood? What about the HOA? What are the rules and regulations? Can you help me understand that? And most realtors don't get that our role expands so much more beyond opening a door and helping you order a home inspection. There's so much, it's so much deeper than that. My job as a realtor is to protect your rights as a property owner, protect your investment to make sure that you're not going to have a government overreach come in and take your property, right? We fight that all the time, and we do that through a lot of different ways, but advocacy is such an important part of what we do for realtors, and the general public just doesn't understand that. And for newer agents, again, if you pay member dues, get value out of that, right? Participate. And I know you belong to a firm, and you're probably getting some training and resources out of your firm, which is fantastic. But if you're living in a bubble, you're only going to know that bubble, right? The radius of that bubble is all you're ever going to know. And if you just step out of that and get different perspectives on things, is such an important part of what we do.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Sorry, let me go on tangent.
Oh, no, you're perfectly fine. And that's something that I thought was interesting. So I have some people would say have switched too many lenders in 4 years. Going from direct lender to a joint venture to a different joint venture back to movement where I am now. But one of the things I noticed is there was something of value I could pull from each situation where I feel like I'm now finally starting to figure out where I am, which is that beyond the box creative financing person.
Okay.
But if I would have stayed where I was in just that one little box and not talked to investors inside of real estate investors associations, been involved with the other affiliates, the other lenders that come to Raleigh Regional, I wouldn't even have known that the non-QM world existed.
Right.
And I would have still been, and I'm not going to say just the conventional lender, because they do great jobs for 90% of the buyers across the nation, and do a great job of that. But for the other 10% that need something, it took me getting out of the space, out of the box, being around people that were smarter, more experienced, higher producing than I was, to be like, oh, there's more. And I do see that. That's why I like to come in and see, like, oh crap, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys seeing these things? And I know that, like, I don't necessarily do a ton of business with the people that I'm in here with, but the stories and the examples I get of what success and greatness looks like inspires me to be better. And one of the things I think is interesting is, yes, there's a fee for the association. Yeah. If you're not getting the value out of the association, out of your money that you're putting in, it's not because the value isn't there. It's because you're not capitalizing on the value that's available.
Right. 100% agree. And kudos to you, first of all, for you found your niche, right? And I think that's an important thing, because even as a realtor or a lender, you can say, listen, I'm a end all be all, right? I can do any and everything. And the problem is you're casting too wide of a net, right?
Right.
And I think it's important for either a realtor or a lender to really truly understand what drives you, what motivates you, and what you're going to be really, really good at. And discover that niche. And then when you kind of fine tune your strategy on what your market is, that's going to help you be more successful. Because you could do every loan in the world, right? You could say, listen, I'm going to do every loan in the world. That's not reality.
Right.
You can't. Like, there's no way in the world I would want to service every single transaction in Wake County. Not going to happen.
Right.
I don't want it.
Right.
Right. I think for me, just like what you found your niche and what you think is a vital role for what you perform in that lending scape, right?
Right.
That's very, very important, and kudos to you for identifying that. Realtors the same way. They need to find their niche, whether it's property management, commercial properties. I mean, think about everything. What about investment properties? You want to work with just investors to help them, find that good ROI, that good investment property, but there's a deep understanding that you really need to understand about that property, and is it going to be exactly what that investor needs?
Right.
That's a very specific knowledge
And it takes a different brain
100%.
To be able to do that. Like, the first-time home buyer and the investor on your side and my side, very different.
Right. And yes, there are realtors that can do that, but you're not really being effective at both those, because you're drilling down to a very specific niche that takes specialization and experience and knowledge that you can impart. You can be a first-time home buyer specialist as a realtor and just knock it out of the park, but that's a special product, right? You've got to sell yourself on the value you're bringing into that transaction to that buyer, so you're guiding them almost every single step, right? You need this, let me help you fill out this is why you need this. When you talk about a first-time home buyer, a lot of them, and you've run into this too as a lender, a lot of them don't understand their credit profile and what all entails that credit profile. And so if you're a specialist in that scape, you need to understand everything about a credit report, because even if a buyer, for example, has maybe a low credit score the way they can't qualify for a mortgage today, they've got ambition, they've got drive, they've got the wherewithal to say, listen, I want to do these things and buy a house one day. And a lender can help them do that. Say, listen, we need you to do these specific steps. Here's how long it's going to take. And your credit profile is going to project to be this. That will help you afford a home.
And they're great loan officers that do that.
Yeah.
And there's almost a part of me that kind of wishes that in our space, we wouldn't be so scarcity mindset. And I know it was something that held me back. We talked about it beforehand.
Yeah.
It took Tony Robbins and an act of God to be able to be like, hey, you're going to keep getting challenged until you step into who you are.
Right.
That's the creative financing for me. I find more joy. Like doing a bank statement loan that most loan officers are like, I want nothing to do with bank statements. Please don't hand them to me. For me, I'm like, woo, bank statements, or like, ooh, give me tax returns.
Tell me why that works for you. And I've got some observation. I want to learn this too, because this is important. Why does that work for you?
I think that I find excitement in the extraordinary. I think corporate world is boring.
Okay.
And so the corporate loan, conventional, is boring to me. So when somebody has utilized the tax code to its fullest, if you understand what I'm saying there with write-offs, I still think that you have the revenue. You should still be able to buy a house.
Okay.
And there's a way for you to do it. I do think that comes back to my business school background of looking at ROI and wanting to build that into this community where it's like, I think you as an entrepreneur are doing something great, but you shouldn't be kicked out of the market. So how can I help you have the American dream, but also have the American dream of entrepreneurship? Yeah. And I think that's why it works for me, because I get excited about it.
Yeah, so again, looking at this from outside of your world and your head, one of the things that's very interesting, and my take on you, Brett, is you're very intellectual. You're a critical thinker. And to me, what I see with your business and where you're moving it is you're able to sit down and turn this puzzle into a masterpiece. Whereas a conventional, there's no challenge, right?
Right.
All right, 5% down, 20% down. All right, here's your rate. Boom, you're done. You're saying, listen, I want to buy a house. I own a company. I don't show $20,000 a year in net income. But you're like, you know what? Let me take a look at this on a deeper level. I understand tax code. I think based on what we're looking at here, you can buy a house, and here's what we're looking at. What do you think about these terms? There's an intellect and an impulse there that not everybody's going to want to take that time and energy to focus on. So kudos to you for really identifying that and figuring that out, because you're 100% suited for that critical thinking process that some loans really take, and that's a great accolade for you. And so kudos to finding that out.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's what I want some of the listeners to hear too. Is like, this fits me.
Of course it does. It's perfect.
Right.
It's like the puzzle fit right together.
The puzzle fit. I mean, but it took me a long time to get out of if I only pitch myself this way, I'm going to lose this business. And if I lose this business, I can't eat.
You're not authentic.
And you're not, and everybody sees it. It's that smelling blood concept, right?
Yeah.
Like, real estate is really an ocean of sharks. Okay. Right? Like, there's a lot of sharks out here, and we see the people that aren't being authentic. Like, and we have a pretty good grasp on that. The buyers and sellers might not necessarily, but those of us in the industry, we're kind of like, all right, cool, well, I'm going to go over here because, like, these are my people, or this is better for me. I tried HBA out. There's a lot of people that love working with builders. Me personally, I find myself to be a realtor investor person.
Okay.
And that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't shame anybody for finding your place wherever you want to be, because they need phenomenal, great lenders in HBA, just like RAR does, and TREA needs for the real estate, investment associations or wherever they are. We need people to fit in that, and I think the realtors need that too.
Sure, absolutely. And to your point, if you're not authentic with who you are, and you don't understand what you're bringing to the transaction, if you're going out trying to talk to realtors, say, hey, I don't want to get off the subject too much, but as a realtor, I would probably say 5 to 10 times a week I get a call from a lender. or an email or a text. Hey, meet me for whatever. I'm like, I don't know who you are, right? I don't know who you are, what you stand for. You're not in my sphere. Like, why would I take the time to do that? So one of the things that I think is so important in watching you over the last several years get to know you is how you have just put yourself in front of realtors where they are. And you don't say, listen, I want to do all your business. That's not your role. Like, listen, here's what I do. If you have anybody that you think would fit that, let me know. But you're not saying, send me all your business. You're not saying, send me your difficult deals. That's not who you are. And I think it brings people to want to talk to you. Like, well, tell me a little bit more about QM. What does that mean, right?
Right.
And so for a realtor, it's important that a lender be authentic, who you are. I've got to believe that you're going to take care of my paycheck. You know, a client who I'm working with is my paycheck. That's my livelihood.
Right.
That's how I pay my bills. That's how I put my daughter in college. That's how I put food on my plate. So to me, customer service, and once you get to know me, customer service is such a pillar of my business. I want to make sure that my customer is so happy they had as stress-free a transaction as possible, and that the lender that we chose not only was able to get the best mortgage for them based on their situation, was able to communicate it effectively to the customer. So I'm not answering questions about how much they need at closing, what happens to my appraisal. You know, that lender has done all of their side of the transaction. So I'm a partner with that lender. And so we bring that transaction to the closing, not as a celebration, but just as an opportunity to show that client, I'm your partner for life, right? I'm going to help you with all your real estate needs going forward. And so for lenders who are listening, you know, you've got to have a lot of tenacity and identify what your niche is and what value you bring to a transaction. Because you're right, we can smell blood in the water. You can see right through it. Like, you don't want my business. You just want a transaction. You're trying to pay bills. Right? I don't like that. I'm looking for long-term relationships. I think most realtors are, right? I want to know how many kids you got, right? What's your situation? Where are you from? Tell me your hobbies. What do you like? This is a relationship business, just like my relationship with my clients. And so a lot of lenders forget that.
Yeah. And talking about that, I think it's interesting because you're the man that was like, hey, you come out here, you have drinks with us, like cocktails, but you don't have a bourbon. He's like, you got to try one. If you're going to be a man, by try a bourbon, which I took as a challenge, right? So
I did not say that, by the way. That was not me.
I took it as a challenge, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And I've come to, like, that's my favorite thing. I love bourbon tastings now. My big thing is I want to hit the Bourbon Trail out in Kentucky. So if anybody's listening in Kentucky, bring me out. But would love to do it. But that personality side of the try something new with your life, like in get out there and be authentic. And you might not get their business, but you might get a friendship, which is what you really wanted and what you really needed. Because when you're living your best, you're then being able to perform for your clients better. And I think some people get so stressed at, like, what's the market doing? What's going on? They get out of their authenticity. They're a wreck. And then they're a wreck in front of their clients, and their clients aren't getting good stuff. And kind of how our whole worlds kind of go into that. If you're not being authentic, you're not really being the best person for your client anymore.
No.
Because you're not at your optimum either.
No, and you're absolutely right. And you know, I've spent a lot of time training other realtors. I do a lot with my firm, HPW, and it is interesting to me in going through, even at HPW, the classes that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, there are agents that just don't get it. And you've probably seen lenders the same way. And they're so desperate for a transaction, or they need a paycheck, and because they can't put food on their plate. This is not that kind of business. And customers, you're just not going to do the right things for your customers if you're desperate. It is a challenge for this business. So many people get into this as a second career or third career, and they just don't have the resources or savings or the secondary income to come in to support them. And it does create a challenge. And this is a job. You've got to wake up with, as soon as your feet hit the ground, you got to understand, I am unemployed. I've got to go make my paycheck, right? You are unemployed every day. And so every day my feet hit the ground, because I get up early and spend a lot of time working out and going to the gym. And because after like after 7:15 in the morning, my day's done, right? Because your day's being planned for you. It's hard to have, and we talked about that real early, but it's hard to have a consistency every day in this business because everything's thrown at you. You're
Right.
coming at you're dodging bullets all the time, and so you've got to get all your work done before 7 a.m. And then the rest of the day is just
Reaction.
prospecting and reacting, and you've got to go out there and grind every single day. And a lot of people just don't understand that.
So to end up, I'm so excited. There's so many like great nuggets in this, even for me to go back and like re-listen to this over and over again. And something I want to kind of add into these interviews is something that I've heard Jay Shetty do. And I'm going to kind of build upon that. I'm going to give him credit where credit's due.
Okay.
But he says, what's the best or worst advice that you've ever been given? I think he asked, what's the worst advice you've ever been given? And what's the best advice you've ever been given? I'm going to give you an option, the best or worst advice you've ever been given. And
You can put me on the spot. That's a hard one. Okay,
and a good piece of advice for either side of the house, the realtor or the loan officer at growing business. And you can start with either one. I'll let you think about it for a little bit.
worst advice. I mean, gosh, there's
so much bad advice you've
well,
got.
there is. I mean, seriously, there is a lot of bad advice. And unfortunately, it's just I'm able to forget about it. I think the best advice, and I'll have to give kudos to my branch manager when I started in the morning. And this is from the mortgage business,
Okay.
right? And this is a lesson I tell even realtors to this day. He's told me because I was in '96. I was 25 years old. I was a youngin. I'm only 26 now, but
Right.
yeah,
It's great.
right. And he said, John, I only want you to work 2 days a week. Now, keep in mind, this is 1996, right? So internet, email really hadn't started to take off at that point. He's like, I just want you to work Saturday and Sunday. Okay? Now, the genius in this is that he knew, especially with his experience, because he'd been in the business forever, because as a lender, I'm going out, open houses. I'm going out shaking hands with realtors, bringing them a drink and saying, hey, can I sit down and talk to you a little bit about my business or whatever the case is. And he knew that if you did that just Saturday and Sunday, you're going to be getting enough business. You're in the office the rest of the week. I mean, and it absolutely worked, right? And so even as a realtor, you need to go out every weekend, do open houses, Saturday, Sunday, work your weekends. The reason is most people are off work and they're going at looking at open houses, right? And you're able to develop a good buyer prospecting list. Even sellers from the same neighborhood are coming in. I want to see this house. I've got one around the street. I want to think about selling it. If you work 2 days a week as a realtor, you're going to be so busy, you're going to have to work the other 5 days. And so that's probably the best advice I've ever been given in my whole life in this industry is just work 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's magic. It really is. But work means a lot of things to a lot of people, right? You got to put the effort in. It's work. It's not fun. It's not going out having drinks with your lenders and here's a bourbon tasting, right? Well, we've done that,
Right.
but that's not the focus, right?
Right.
You're there to work. You're there to make money. You're there to take care of your clients, right?
Right.
And you're there to be the best lender you possibly can, provide the best service to whoever your partner is, whether it's a realtor or a client. And like if you just go out on weekends and just make sales calls, you'll be so busy. It takes, it's not instant. This
Right.
isn't a just mix with water kind of thing.
Right.
It takes time, but once you do that and you get good and you're confident, it's lights out. It really is, honestly.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
And then what was the second part?
The second one was, what advice would you give somebody else? And to be honest, I feel like that was the best advice that you could give and get.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell realtors that all the time. Like, listen, work Saturday and Sunday, and I do mentors with HPW as well. And I tell them, there's what can I do to get business? First of all, I'm a big proponent of not spending a bunch of money for new agents because there are people in software and salespeople trying to get money out of your pocket every single day.
Yep.
And it's so easy to say, you know what, I'll spend that $200 a month. I'll spend this $50 a month for this program. And by the time you know it, you're out of money. So one of the things that's a challenge for new agents is they've got to get in their head, they got to work. And I tell them, it's like work Saturday and work Sunday. You do open houses every single weekend.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. And I think that that's great advice that you gave right there at the end. The 2 days, I think a lot of people during COVID forgot about open houses. and that possibility and the working of the weekends.
Oh yeah, clearly.
And now we're getting back into it's time to bring the service back. We're not a commodity. We're
Right.
a service. And so I'm so grateful for that little piece of nugget, like that nugget of knowledge that we can put out there. And again, thank you so much for being on with me.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure.
Right.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having me.
All right.